All right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and then welcome to today's call. I'm going to let everyone, I see a ton of people piling in on this. So just a quick introduction on it. I'm Jeff Johnson. Many of you know me here, Technology Marketing Toolkit, and the head of Big Red Media here with Robin Robbins. And we've got a great call lined up today. I've got Bert Powers on here. I'm sure everyone knows who Bert is. Probably not really with it. I'm sure Bert is well known in certain circles. I don't know about with this, but I wanted to give a quick introduction here. Bert's been with Dell for 19 years. After graduating from Texas A&M, he joined Dell as an inside sales consumer advisor, which is, I think that's inside Dell speak, Bert, for like junior salesperson, lowest in the
Yes,
totem pole
that's right.
there. And that was back 19 years ago. From there, he's held various sales and leadership roles across consumer, member purchase program, and small business divisions. Today, he's the senior director of North America Small Business Sales. He's got over 650 people on his team here, all focused on small businesses from 1 to 99 employees. Bert is also here, right here in Nashville, and so he is not down at the Austin headquarters. He's here in Nashville, just like we are. So we were having a good conversation about that the real estate market in Nashville and how crazy it is. So anyone on there, California people, you can stop moving to Nashville. Actually, it's good for real estate prices for us. But
Right, that's right.
Bert, hey, welcome on the call today here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, so as we're getting into it, and I will note something here, we're going to announce at the tail end of the call. I know I teased on this here. We're going to announce actually $2,000 giveaway winners. So we have our May winner. Dell's got something of where they're giving away over a 12-month period. They're giving away $12,000 to Technology Marketing Toolkit members. And if you're not entered in that already, I'll make sure at the end of this call that you've got a way to do that. You can win more than once. It's not just it's a random draw every single month, but also special for this webinar, we're going to be giving away $1,000 of an Amex gift card. So someone that's here on the webinar is going to be getting that. So pretty cool with that. Not a bad Thursday for someone with it. So we'll be doing that in just a little bit. I wanted to make sure that everyone's aware. I also wanted to note, and thanks to Clint for this, of reminding me on it, is that if you do have questions, I've got some questions that are lined up. We're going to do Q&A on this, myself and Bert. But if you guys have questions, feel free to throw them into the Q&A that should be on your screen here, and we'll get through as many of those as we can with it. I've got these kind of preset that I wanted to run through and some things, but really of getting it direct from you guys is even more important than things that I can come up with in my mind here. But Bert, we were just talking about it right before we went live about just a unique perspective. So maybe just talk about just the day-to-day before we even get into any questions, the day-to-day of kind of what you do and how it applies. Some of these things of why your opinion, why your foresight on this is really relevant for MSPs and how it applies to your job.
So if I look at my role, like you said, I have about organization of about 650 people. We're all inside sales, and so we do have a little bit of customer facing with team members like Alicia, who manages this relationship. But overall, we're inside sales. Our footprint is split between Round Rock, Texas, and Nashville, Tennessee, and then we also have our chat organization, which is located in Hyderabad, India. And so our attention is solely on small business end users and the members of the Dell Expert Network who are helping and facilitating as service providers to small business customers. So my role in the organization is really 4 parts. I spend about 25% of my time ensuring that we're managing and inspiring and motivating and developing our people. Like you said, I started as an inside sales rep, which is the Dell speak for, entry point, foot in the door, learn our products, learn our customers, and go through the sales motion. And so we spend a lot of time with all the management system of developing people and ramping them and getting them capable and accelerating their careers. Spend a great deal of my time looking at delighting our customers, where we're spending the right initiatives on the experience so that we're delighting and exceeding expectations and keeping people coming back. Big part of our business is hitting our targets. So I have financial expectations, and we measure a great deal of metrics, but we have commitments that we really break up and look at quarterly, chunks of time that we break across weeks and days. And so having a business management system to where we are inspecting and diagnosing and tweaking and making adjustments to achieve those results. And then about 25% of my time is on planning and strategy. So how are we thinking about assessing market conditions, investing appropriately to expand and capture more market opportunity, and continue to accelerate our current results to future targets. And we're constantly in this rotation of 5-year plus planning. And so that's where I spend that last 25% of my time. So that way we can achieve short term, but keep our eye on long term so we can continue to stay ahead of competition.
Yeah, and that's a big important one on there. And a lot of what we're going to talk about, at least the first part of this call here, is really taking that and what's in your head of what's coming around the corner here. There's a lot of changes that have happened over the last year, and going forward on it, that's just such a huge part. As an MSP, you can get away with being reactive. You and your role cannot get away with being reactive in what's going on, and where you've got to always be staying ahead, and you're going to be able to share that. So, talk a little bit about what you've seen over when we go over the last 12 months here since the beginning of the pandemic. What's happened in Dell's world for the overall technology landscape, and what have you seen in this SMB space?
Yeah, I think I'll combine kind of what I've seen recently, and then what I see also moving forward, current and in the near future.
Yeah.
I think the first one, and I'm guessing everyone on the call had customers that had to make the major transition because they were desktop heavy, right? That was the one that was the glaring obvious of how many of our end users were dependent on an office type environment to a desktop, and needed to make the transition to just the simple transition to a laptop, which was pretty daunting for a lot of customers, and all of the elements that came with that. It's more than buying a laptop and then just working from home. The ecosystem, the peripherals, and we kind of laugh about it a little bit about the toilet paper of technology was laptops for a while, right? And webcams and all the things to be functional in a remote environment. But that's the one that's most glaring. And what we see that comes along with that, and I see this as a trend moving forward this year, is much more interest in cloud and hybrid cloud adoption. So the work from anywhere plan. So how can customers become agile in their technology solutions to give that flexibility to their employees to best serve their customers? And we're seeing more interest in what makes sense for them based on their setup. We're seeing some insights that there'll be a much greater spend on software, especially on collaboration applications and other technologies that keep you connected to your customers without a physical presence. So obviously massive adoption of Zoom like we're using today, and Teams and others. One that's standing out as well is interest in kind of pay-as-you-go, PC as a service type solutions, as customers are really thinking about how do I save my capital and have a predictable monthly spend model. That way they can have flexibility with kind of moving up and moving down as they add employees or change in their dynamics. I think the pandemic and the shift kind of exposed that we needed to move out of some of our archaic ways. How many customers have massive amounts of paper records, and they needed to move that to a digital transformation. So we're seeing a lot of adoption in that category. One that is also standing out is how many customers didn't even have an online presence for the longest time. So now to be competitive, they've got to have not only an online presence, but a really good one, and one that's good on mobile versus a traditional system. And so they have the right infrastructure to support that. And then I think two more that stand out, that's a lot of press right now, is how are you thinking about your cybersecurity to protecting your hard work and your investment, protecting your customers' information, and avoiding these newsworthy threats that we're seeing right now that can end everything in an instant. So ensuring you have a really robust plan to protect all your hard work and your customers' information, and giving you the opportunity to continue to invest and grow. 5G is coming along pretty rapidly as well as a complement to that. So those are the ones that kind of jump out to me at the biggest right now, and where I see, my teams are having most of their conversations right now.
So when you're seeing a lot of that and looking at it for the SMB space on it, is that what are the different product sets that from Dell's perspective, what are you seeing that people are needing to do differently? I mean, there was obviously the mobility with the laptops and that type of thing was a 2020, and even continuing on, I'm sure, with that as well as being a standard. Are there other things that everyone should be looking at from a sales perspective or a technology sales perspective that these trends are driving?
Yeah, I think one kind of an elementary side of the answer is, especially like with our employees, is when you are working remotely, do you have the technology ecosystem that best replicates what you're used to in an office environment? So your focus can be on your work and your customers, and you have as much as efficient and productive setup as possible. And so we can talk about some of those elements, and as simple as, are you using dual monitors? Are you using a really good speaker system, keyboard, mouse? It sounds kind of silly, but we know from an employee experience, if they don't have that setup, they're inefficient. They're spending more time in other areas for things waiting, or if you use multiple applications, working from one screen versus 2 or 3 slows me down. So, those are pretty basic. And then one I think that I hear a lot of that they weren't considering is, okay, what's my enterprise infrastructure plan, so that if I'm networking in or I'm working remotely, that my endpoint experience is as seamless as though I'm, on office, on-prem, hardwired in. So when we get into the specifics of that, I think it's more of consulting, my team that can help you identify what exactly you need between your networking system, your server setup, and then the way it's all connecting. But when you follow the wire, I think there are some elements that when you create a remote environment versus just an on-premise, there's some elements they need to consider. And that's why I go back to the network security as well. So following all of those steps and getting all the right parts are critical for both your customers and your employees.
Yeah, so Bob was asking of a question that had popped up here for you. Any idea how long we can expect the supply chain and long delivery times to continue?
Ooh, Bob, that's a great question. And quite honestly, I'm not being disingenuous. I wish I had a good answer for you. But I can tell you that it's industry wide. So y'all are probably feeling it from all providers. The great thing that I'm experiencing on my side is our relationship with our providers of the technology and working through that. If I were to look into, a crystal ball, I think we're going to be in this situation for several months to come. My point of view, and I think what we've seen just from some industry insights, is probably through the rest of the year, we're going to continue to be in that situation of having to be flexible. And so that's where, even on our sales side, we communicate every single day. And so I have a team of people that are going through at an order code level. So that way, Jeff, if you call me and say, hey, I have a customer that we need these specs, we can navigate what we have available that can meet deployment dates. And then we can identify, okay, it has 1, 2, and 3, and we may need to compromise on number 4, but we can find the absolute best solution and then kind of navigate that situation. But I think we're going to be in this position for many months to come.
Yeah, I think that's where it really goes into that planning side of it too. But we've tended to see in our office, and we've got, I think last I heard this morning, we've got 56 people in our office, either here or remote. And we've really had to transition from can't make the new hire or changing of someone and say they're starting next Monday. It's they're starting 2 weeks from Monday here, because otherwise we can't guarantee we're actually going to have their computer,
Right,
everything set up, ready to go. I'm doing that. And so just even educating, I think we partly had to educate ourselves on it there, but also our MSP for our office and making sure that they educate us so that there's not a lack of knowledge around that or frustration that happens when you can't
Right.
get something.
Yeah, I mean, if you look across other industries too, and it's not just technology. I mean, anything that uses it, you see it in the automotive industry, you see it in construction and lumber. It's across the board. So, what I'm really enthused by how how we dedicate our effort to making sure we navigate the system for you, right? So use our team to help you kind of go through all of those variables, and we can come up with the best solution in most cases. And so that's why I'm a big advocate for our teams to kind of help go through that, because it can easily become overwhelming and stressful. So let us carry that stress.
Yeah, Shelby was even saying on here that she couldn't find a bike for her daughter this week
Okay.
because of that same supply chain deal of happening. So that actually leads into the next question that I had, and jump into this one because I think this is a natural lead in for some like our company here, of where there's quite a few of us that are back in the office, and we are. But I know there's a ton of MSPs that their customers are not back in the office. So what are the changes that small businesses and the MSP supporting them that are listening in here should be prepared when creating that return to office plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. I encourage you in this to do a lot of questioning and listening. And the reason I say that is, even within my own experience, to where we were largely on site for the almost 20 years that I've been at Dell, and we had to make a change in a matter of days. So we're doing a lot of listening and what works best for our customers and our employees, so that we're on the same page when it comes to that expectation, because ultimately we want to best serve our customers while meeting our employees expectations, because over the last year plus, we have developed new routines, or we have certain situations that require a different prioritization than it did before. And so I think, number one, listening, and then developing a plan that's probably going to be on some spectrum. And so establishing, okay, if I consider, one extreme to the other, to where you have 100% return, there is no remote at all or work from home, all the way on the other end to where you're 100% remote. There's probably going to be some variability in the middle, and then also a situations that will require flexibility. And so I think the first part is, what is that plan? And then does the technology support that? So that way, when individuals that are in a hybrid environment have a seamless transition, whether they're working from home or they're in the office. And that's going to be a combination of the physical technology, to where their workspace is replicated at home at the office. So you're not, I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but you don't want to task someone with putting all their technology in a backpack, monitors, accessories, and going back and forth every day, because right, you have damage, and that's just not a good experience. So it's one to have the physical hardware, and then it goes back to, well, how is your network and your software and your connection, to where no matter where you plug in the work anywhere environment, supporting that. So your employee can offer the best experience to their customer, whether it's at their home, whether it's at a shared remote, workspace, or the original physical office. So I think it starts with the plan, figuring out what that spectrum is, and then making sure that the technology solution is replicated in all locations, so that the employee can be seamless between them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's huge as part of it. A lot of what I've seen, I've got a neighbor, good friend of ours that works at Bridgestone downtown, and even a company like Bridgestone, obviously not in your SMB market there, but they've got huge brand new building in downtown Nashville, and they're not going back to full time in the office, of where they're doing shared. You're in the office for 2 days a week, and I'm hearing that for quite a lot, because for many companies, they've determined that, hey, people actually can work from home and can do so effectively. And there's that competitive advantage for some of them too, is that if you're forcing someone to be back in the office and they actually did well at home, then now someone else could offer them that remote flexibility there. I've even had that some with ours here with employees that are good, solid employees you wouldn't want to lose.
Mhm.
That if you don't offer that of being able to work from home, they've certainly gotten used to it. So we
That's
fast
right.
forwarded that considerably. Just that was one of the effects of COVID, of fast forwarding this work from home
Yeah.
phenomenon.
Yeah. And you've seen quite a bit of, if you read any of the market studies or companies that have commissioned research with very large employee surveys, and their position is drastically changed. And to your point, if their employer can no longer meet those expectations, they're going to be more interested in finding where they can. So
Yeah.
that's why I start with, you got to listen, right? We got to understand what works best for everybody right now.
Yeah, Bob was chiming in here. He's recently seen some customer inquiries looking for monitors with integrated USB-C hubs, eliminating the need for separate dock for the laptops, and a number of these different things um, that he's got here. He said, after a quick search, I see that Dell offers them.
Yep.
The question was, do they work well? Are they proven? Are you seeing those type of things? I don't know, on a specific item of this that's necessarily with it, but are those the type of things that you're seeing that people are looking for? Of like, what are these ease of use type of deals of going one to the other without having like your traditional docking stations everywhere? And
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the clean desktop effort.
yeah,
So how can I minimize the amount of items on my space? And that's a great call out. And to answer Bob's question, not trying to be sarcastic in my answer, but we put out great technology we know works. And so we have a pretty thorough team before product launch to determine, yes, this is a fantastic solution for the customers that are looking for that. So I stand behind those products.
yeah, absolutely. And so those are the type of things to be looking for. It sounds like, especially on that. I would say as part of it, and just adding on to your answer on it, is that if you've got clients that are not in the office and you haven't been meeting with them, now's the time to be having those conversations, if you haven't already, of finding out what is their plan of return to
Right.
office.
Yeah,
What are
and
they
back to
looking to
the
do, and being the leader of bringing up some of these things that we're talking about.
yeah, and we started with the conversation about laptops, and if you have customers that do not anticipate returning to office, I've encouraged them. Well, think about a micro form factor desktop. So that way you get performance. It's very small, in terms of the space that it takes up. It may give you some flexibility and options and your price point, depending on the budget and the total circumstances. So while I opened with this immediate reaction to I got to have a laptop, well, depending on the end user situation, that may not be the solution. So if they're not working, in different rooms across the house, don't look past that as well. So I think you can get pretty creative in how you're addressing very specific end user situations.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about for you. I mean, you had to go and put 650 people all working remote, and as you and I were talking about on the pre-call, is that one thing, and these are all pretty much salespeople that you've got that you're putting remote, which is kind of a scary thing, of everyone working inside sales and working from their home office without the team around them here. A lot of everyone that's on the call, of where they either have salespeople or they're looking for salespeople here for their MSP. How did you foster the same positive customer experiences and really managing those teams there with that same productivity when you were working, having them work from home instead of in the office?
Yeah, and so Jeff, part of my, back to the planning element, why we did, I mean, it really felt like overnight when we were assessing and getting direction from the CDC and our local health officials and our executive direction. They made a decision, and within a matter of less than a week, we were 100% remote. And so, fortunately, we had been planning not for a pandemic, but we had set up the technology that we could be nimble depending on various circumstances, even just simple disaster recovery, right? We're in Nashville and we have weather events. In Austin, they have weather events, and various reasons have created temporary remote working, be it a couple hours or a day, but we had never had a situation like this. So fortunately, we at least were prepared with the technology to where we could deploy and say, okay, overnight, everyone is going to log in from home and we're going to be from home for a while. And, that's, again, back to the laptop, mobile accessories they take with them. Our soft phones or voice over IP, right? Everything is done through the system. So we didn't need to have physical phones going and then people like, I don't have a landline at my house, type situation. And I can't use my cell phone for that many hours a day. So we already had the technology that was ready to deploy in that regard. So that part was easy. I shouldn't say easy, it was a transition. But it allowed us for the employees to not be as distracted so they could focus on their customers. And so that way, when they are working from home and they're adapting to whatever is going on in their environment, this one was unique because obviously managing through kids and family members and the other circumstances that could be unique from individual to individual. But often we used a similar reporting structure. How I managed stayed consistent as though we were in the office. So the metrics were largely the same. My reports were largely the same. So that way it also felt consistent for the employee, even though the remote versus in the office. We still measured and managed call activity. We're inbound sales, right? We talk to customers all day long. So we look at phone activity, we look at talk time, we look at all of those metrics. The difference in the remote environment, though, was that became more of an indicator to where, okay, now I need to go spend a little time with Jeff or Alicia and understand, do we have a technology issue? Do we have a skill issue? Do we have a work from home challenge to where we need to adjust our coaching plan? That way we could assess more, because in the on-site environment, to where if I have 300 employees all on the same sales floor, you really get a lot of just visual, right, read of what's happening. I can see if someone is experiencing a challenge, and then I know. So we were depending on some of our reports to amplify that for us. And then we just made sure that we engaged in a way that was, okay, let's find out how we can help and not just use the data exclusively. But on the reporting side, we look at a couple things: phone and call activity for sure. Then we look at a great deal of metrics. We look at sales results, and we look at various key performance indicators that help us continue to diagnose. And like I said, we tried to remain as consistent as possible, remote versus on site, so that way the experience felt the same. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is a completely different company now that I'm at home versus when I'm in the office and I don't recognize my work anymore. So we were very sensitive to that.
Yeah, so it sounds like on a lot of it, and I would imagine so with this of Dell and your organization of being very metric driven. That's a lot of what Robin teaches our clients there for salespeople. And so even it's almost of a you need to double down on the metric side of it to be the driver of this when you've got someone working remote versus being in the office.
Yeah, and
because you don't have that.
And I compare it a little bit to how we measure and manage and lead when performance is going really good versus when it's challenged.
Yeah.
And so, we've all experienced, or you may have worked for somewhere to where when things are going really well, your experience and inspection is different than when things are challenged. And I think that's a really tough employee experience. So I try to be as consistent as possible with our organization. And the same thing with remote rather on site. The more consistent we can be, the better experience. And it helps us really fine tune the results. So that's another one that I think is important as well.
With all those people, how do you keep everyone engaged when they're all kind of in their own silo?
Yes.
There of being at home. Do you have everyone like all on the same video Zoom chat that they're talking all day long, or what are you doing in that instance?
That is a constant learning avenue for us as well. So we weren't the experts when it started. Zoom was really exciting at first, But I'll say we've evolved over time. We sought feedback from external experts, doing a lot of external research, and ultimately the way I answered is it is a variety of activities. And so what we try to do is ensure that every team member feels through their experiences with their leadership or their overlays or everyone that they're getting the same support and inspiration on site or off site without being fatigued through check-ins, right? You can get meeting fatigue pretty quickly. So each team will have a strategy, and they can do a morning coffee as an example, just a quick check-in, non-work related, kind of get the day going, and then we get started. And then every team member should have a dedicated one-on-one so that it is dedicated time to talk about professional development, career path, etc. And then we do team events, and we'll go across the board. We'll do happy hours on Zoom. We do recognition events. We'll do dinners to where we've sent food or vouchers for them to get food delivered, so we can all have a meal together, even though it's virtually. And then we also have had guests come in, be it a guest speaker from an industry or subject matter expert for learning or development, or somebody that is producing some fun. We'll do virtual game afternoon. And so we try to mix it up as much as possible. And the way we do that is we've dedicated some individuals. We've tasked them like, hey, this is your role for us, is to build a calendar that we can assess and then we can implement so that we are meeting all of those. And so then we get a lot of feedback, right? So then we're constantly, I'll do roundtables and I'll do listening sessions to where we keep a good pulse on, okay, are we doing too much or not enough? Or is it missing the mark completely? And so we adjust accordingly. And what we've heard recently, especially for young professionals, I mean, I've had several hundred people start their Dell career and have never been on site, right? They started remote, they were trained remote, they've never even been in the building. And so for those, we're really aware of, okay, how aware are you for your career path? So we're making sure that we're having office hours and panels to where people can come in and talk about, what your options are as you grow your career, because not that we took for granted, it was just different when you're in the office and you just have constant access and visibility to those. So I think it's a long answer to say it's a wide variety. We have fun activities, we have business related activities, we have rewards and recognition activities, but we try to keep it organized on the calendar and then check in with people and understand, are we hitting the mark, we're missing the mark, and what would they like to see more or less of.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be learned from much of what you said there, whether it's for anyone's organization that's on the call right now, or even looking at it for advice that they can give to customers on this of different ways of how to navigate this, and something that's not necessarily going away. I mean, we talked about it where there's going to be a lot of this hybrid remote and in office situations here. Yeah. I'm curious, a part of that for Dell here in Nashville, of are there plans of going back in person, and what is that looking like for you guys?
There are. We're in the middle of our return to site strategy and plan implementation. Michael just did did his quarterly review with everyone and our executive of facilities management. Recognizing for us unique situation to where I think about Nashville, I think about Round Rock, but they're planning globally. So they're looking at all the sites and the conditions going on, recognizing that we have team members, like I have team members in India, and they're going through a very different experience than we are here locally right now. So we're very sensitive in keeping health and safety top of mind for all of our employees and making sure we have the best plan possible. So that's the short answer is yes, we plan a return to site in some capacity. But what I expect is we're developing what is that spectrum. My newest team members who are early in career will have a much higher presence on site versus those that, as they have higher tenure and capability and personal preference, will be more hybrid to even fully remote. Ideally, we'll have that communicated in the very near future. And I don't have a timeline officially from Dell, but we are in that process of finalizing that now.
No, and it's even interesting on that of just like I said, of instructive of hearing of what you guys are doing locally, which is why I asked the question here. Not even necessarily of getting into the business of exactly of what you guys are doing here in Nashville. I joke around that with my California family that if you walk around Nashville, you don't realize that there's a pandemic even going around anymore.
Absolutely. Same thing in Austin. For anybody that's down there, I think they're experiencing a similar situation. But I admire Dell making sure that they're doing their diligence and working with the right people to make the best decision for all of our team members. So, but it kind of goes back to, the strategy to keep people engaged. What I'm hearing from individuals right now is, how do I develop my personal and professional network? How do I feel a part of the company? How do I create a connection in a virtual environment? So that's a really tough one to replicate. I think when you talk and listen to the employees, identifying what's the best strategy to do that. We implement programs like employee resource groups, so where people that have like common interests can join, a collective organization, and then they have specific events or activities or learning sessions and development sessions. So that way that, you're offered that opportunity to participate, contribute, and then build a network. So you do feel more connected and have resources beyond your manager or me to connect with and work with day to day.
Got a question here from Steve Edrington. Steve's one of our Producers Club members, just a little north of us here. Says, how has your experience been in addressing virtual team members that are not meeting scorecard numbers? Any advice that you can share?
Yeah, Steve, that's a great question. And I asked my team to do an evaluation of a couple categories. First, is the underperformance a result of a skill gap? Okay, so we assess, is it a competency in the ability to understand the technology, the services of the customers, right? So that's normally number one, is a training deficiency. The second assessment is kind of the environment. So for the remote specifically, we've had to become much more flexible. So in an event to where you have personal responsibilities, right? Children in remote learning or taking care of a family or loved one, we've identified where can we be more flexible and say, hey, traditionally, if you're an 8 to 5, schedule, maybe you're an 8 to 10 and you need 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the day dedicated to that personal responsibility. And then your day doesn't end at 5 anymore. Maybe it ends at 6 or 7. So you get a full work day, but you have flexibility in the middle that can be, so when you are working, you're dedicated to it. And we're trying to be as flexible as possible there. And then the third element is really that will. What is that person's motivation to actually demonstrate the effort? And what we find there are some of those elements of just being brutally honest, of struggling working in isolation, struggling working alone, struggling feeling supported and getting the help that they need to be successful. So we try to identify, well, what's a plan that will work for them? And we go back to flexibility. I really encourage my team members to identify ways to take appropriate personal or professional breaks during the day. It's really might sound a little silly in elementary, but hey, how are we dedicating time to getting people out of the chair they're sitting in for many hours a day? How are we getting them out and getting fresh air? How are we getting them, to where they get a mental break, because the experience is so different one-to-one with your computer and your headset and your customers versus the ability to turn around and say, hey, Jeff, let's go grab a bite to eat, or we catch up over the water cooler. So we try to identify what are those elements that's causing the underperformance and come up with a plan to address it. And then, unfortunately, in some cases, it results in the individual saying that this just isn't for me, and we determine what the path forward is. But in many cases, we can find a way to help them be more comfortable with the technology, with coaching and training on the sales process and getting them more confident, or demonstrating some flexibility to where they can really be focused and engaged during the times helping customers, and then be focused and engaged on the personal priorities that could be leading to that underperformance.
All right, excellent. Well, I'm going to mention this, and I want to get into a little bit of talking about um, some of what Dell's done here with MSPs.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a slide that I'll pull up for that. But before I do, I just wanted to mention, we're going to take extra Q&A here. So if you do have any questions, Clint, I see your question. I'll actually get that answered here in a moment after we talk a little bit about the Dell Expert Network here. But if you guys do have questions for Bert, we've got about a little less than 20 minutes left here on the call. So just go ahead and post them up in the Q&A. But let me share my screen here, Bert. And I want to have you talk about the changes and pivots. I know we've been talking about this on some webinars and things around here recently. So talk a little bit about what your group has done at Dell and the Expert Network, and how this has really changed of how MSPs interact with Dell. Yeah,
absolutely. So Jeff, if you go back in time a little bit, we stepped back, 3+ years ago, we didn't have a program at all. And so the Dell Expert Network is really a new development, as we saw a fantastic opportunity to partner and collaborate with our MSP community. And so, early on, we saw that those relationships were really focused on break-fix solutions. And so we partnered with MSPs to identify what would be a good program that we can partner and collaborate with to continue to expand both the MSP success and us as a trusted advisor in that journey. So, really, number one, this is separate than a reseller process. So we got to be clear there. This is more around when you're focused on consulting services and solution providing in that way. But when we first started the program, we were establishing what those initial value props were, which is your dedicated account manager. And then it quickly evolved to where we expanded the tools and support that you have around like Tech Direct, or using our Live Optics program to where you can become a broader advisor even to your customers using our internal tools. And then we also advanced recently our tier program. So recognizing there's different layers or levels of participation, and the rewards kind of reflect that. And so, we're constantly hearing from the team and then evolving that, in addition to providing content, webinars, training, certifications that you can use to increase your value prop for your customers as well. And we're currently working through how do we, partner with the team to understand that we have a broad portfolio beyond traditional hardware. When we look at the main portfolio, what we've been selling, it's largely client-based. And that's why I made the comment earlier, recognizing we have all solutions, we have everything. And so, work with your internal point of contact that we can identify what's the best, so you don't feel like you have to multi-source. We want to be your end-to-end solution provider in that regards. And then the other is how we advance that content in partnership with like Alicia as dedicated account manager. So we have Alicia, and then we have another individual that works more on the Round Rock side, but we're giving you dedicated resources. So that way you got escalation paths. We've got the ability to say, you get prioritization, you have, not just a manager, but a team of people that are really here to help you provide the best service possible to your end users, so you can grow your business and we grow along with you. And so, I think, basically around the program evolution is, acknowledging we didn't even exist 3 years ago to here we are, and we're rapidly expanding our value and contribution. So we love these opportunities to hear from the team and Alicia to take into account, what we can continue to do better to best serve the audience.
Yeah, with that, so there was a question, a couple questions on here. Kevin was asking, would the Dell Expert Network supersede Premier?
So different. So Premier is traditionally a commercial program, to where if you think of Dell.com for work as our website, Premier is really a program for a managed account team in the commercial space. And so for us, where we're working with small business end users, we don't have Premier currently for our end users. I think short answer is we don't have Premier for our current end users. But that's why your dedicated account manager plays that role to assist you with identifying, well, what's the best solution based on your end user and your situation. And then we provide best value, best configuration, and we do that, opportunity and solution to solution.
What's the I don't know if this is what Dell Expert Network, Clint had asked this early on. What's the minimum MSRP value for a Dell deal registration? And then what's the starting discount percentage?
Yeah, and Clint, when I hear deal registration, I typically think of our reseller process through our channel partner program. And so there is no minimum on our side, right? So for us, bring any and every opportunity. It doesn't matter. And then when it comes to the pricing, it's going to be a scale depending on the solution and the size and the opportunity. And so there's not a standard discount, if you will, but I can promise you your account managers are going to give you the absolute best value for your solution for your end user. And they take into account the type of product, the ecosystem, the portfolio of the total solution. Is it a one-time versus a multiple, interaction opportunity? So there's a lot of variables there, but I can commit that we will absolutely give you best value. But we don't have a standard like the reseller process does, because we don't support reselling like the channel program does, if that makes sense.
Let's see, Clint is saying, can our MSP continue to keep our enterprise Dell Premier account, but also simultaneously be a part of the expert network?
For that one, Clint, honestly, I would like for you to reach out to Alicia, because what I'd like for her to do is to look at your exact situation and look at what you have in the system, so we can determine what's the best path for you.
And Clint, I'm typing it in there. I know it's on the screen as well, but just in case, here for the for Alicia's email address on there. And he said, perfect, got it.
Yep.
There. I don't know if Doug is being hurtful to Alicia here or not, but he's saying, who's the dedicated program manager on the Round Rock side?
Yeah, I'm gonna put his name in his email in, so I'm gonna grab that right quick.
All right, gotcha.
His name is Wes Gunn, and it's W_GUNN@Dell.com. So I think I can answer it here. I'll put it in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll make sure that I actually let me grab this, because I think you just went to panelists, so I'll get it out to everyone here.
Okay.
There. All right. So one thing that I wanted to talk about here also is, well, actually there was a question that I missed with Stephen.
Okay.
So to confirm, the expert network is separate from our reseller account and is more if I'm doing consulting than if I'm doing product sales?
Correct. Yeah. So if your business model is to buy hardware and then resell it, that would be through the channel organization. We're really focused on working with MSPs and IT consultants who are, when it comes to the actual facilitation of the transaction, we're selling to the end user, and then you have consulting services and your fees as part of that facilitator, designer, deployment, whatever that relationship is with your end user. But if you are a model of a value-added reseller, that would be through our global channel organization.
Yeah, and I think when you really look at some of this, and I know we've had conversations before, and Alicia's been on some of our prior webinars as well. I know she's hiding in the background here for us with it, but a great thing to do is exactly, Bert, of what you were talking about before, is that if there's question marks between, hey, what's going to be the right fit for me, it pays to reach out to Alicia, have that conversation. She's going to point you in the right direction. if sticking of wherever you're at, whatever different program is the right fit for you, she's going to tell you, hey, that's the right fit for you. Because I've seen that happen a few times before with this, of where someone's got a unique situation of where it's a right fit. But it's a great way of very specifically developed for the MSP channel with this network. And I would also mention as part of it, it is on the screen here. So we're doing a 12-month program that we partnered with Dell on. We are giving away $12,000. And actually, I'll announce here that Bryant Zimmerman is our May winner. So we just had that drawing before, and I'm going to give away another $1,000 winner here in a moment. But for the entry on it, you can go to dell.technologymarketingtoolkit.com/cash. If you sign up for the Dell Expert Network, then you're going to be in the drawing each and every month for a $1,000 cash prize. So Eric Shore, one of our Producers Club members, Roy Richardson was our April winner. And so, really just having some fun on that. That was something that we really wanted to do with the team at Dell, of just incentivizing just to be able to check this out and giving away some free cash on this. So if you go to dell.technologymarketingtoolkit.com/cash, you'll also find it for all of our members on the member dashboard. You're going to see it top right-hand corner. If you don't see it right away, then just refresh the page once. I think it'll go to that. It's a rotating banner ad that's up there that'll look exactly like the lady with the cash on there with the laptop. So, being able to do that, it's just a great, easy way where we've had great participation within the community. It's been super popular with it. But I'm going to look I know we did it in the background for those that are attending here, and I promised this on the promotion. So let me see if he's still on the call. And I am seeing it. So our winner of the $1,000 cash participate in this call, and it's going to be $1,000 cash in the form of an Amex gift card. A little easier to send than $100 bills in the mail, is Stephen Roderick with 10D Tech. So Stephen, congratulations. Not a bad Thursday afternoon prize for hopping on for a 1-hour webinar. So we'll connect with you, Stephen, on that there to get your information and make sure that you get that sent out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so great. So I'm not seeing any other questions that are on here right now. If you guys do have any questions, then
I'll just close with if people are still interested in learning more, the link on the screen, we have a dedicated page to the program with a lot of additional information. It goes into more detail around the account manager, the tools, the member dashboard. It talks about the rewards program. You can learn about the financial services that are on there, about how you can use our financial services to incorporate your fees into the solution of the customer. So there's a lot of information there if someone is interested in learning more. And then keep plugging away that Alicia is your best contact to start that conversation too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bert, I appreciate it. I'm not seeing, I see Steven saying, hey, great talk. He appreciated it. And that was not the Stephen that just won the $1,000.
Oh.
He's going to say great talk as well for different reasons. But Bert, I know you're super busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to join the community here on today's call. Very cool stuff that you shared with us, and I look forward to continuing doing a lot with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Have a great Thursday.